The police sirens were screaming through the empty street. Red and blue lights flashed everywhere. I was hiding behind a broken police car, holding the cage key tightly in my shaking hand. Across the street, the Serbian Dancing Lady was spinning slowly in the middle of the road. Her long dress moved with the wind. Her head was tilted in a strange way. And the police officers had their guns pointed right at her. But nobody was shooting. Because every time someone tried to move closer, she started dancing faster. And something terrible happened. Just a few feet behind her was the transport truck. Inside that truck was the gorilla we were supposed to rescue. Mission Rescue Gorilla 3. But the gorilla was screaming inside the cage. The truck doors were shaking. The Serbian Dancing Lady suddenly stopped spinning. Then she slowly turned her head toward me. Even though I was hiding. Even though I was silent. She looked straight at me. Then she smiled. And began walking toward the police line. That was the moment everything went wrong. But to understand how the police ended up facing the Serbian Dancing Lady, and why we were trying to rescue a gorilla in the middle of the night, you have to go back to the beginning. My name is Jake Carter. And this story happened during one of the strangest nights of my life. It started 2 days earlier. I work as a volunteer assistant at a small wildlife rescue center outside a quiet town in Ohio. Most of the time we help injured animals. Foxes, deer, birds. Nothing too dangerous. But one afternoon, my boss, a man named Dr. Miller, called me into his office. He looked serious. "Jake," he said, closing the door behind me. "We have a special situation." I sat down. "What kind of situation?" Dr. Miller pulled out a file folder. Inside were pictures of a large gorilla. "This is Congo," he said. The gorilla in the pictures looked huge. Black fur. Strong arms. Kind eyes. He used to live in a private zoo, Dr. Miller explained. But the place was shut down for breaking animal safety laws. "So what happens to the animals?" I asked. "They're being transported to different rescue centers," he said. "And we're getting the gorilla." Dr. Miller nodded slowly. "Yes. But there's a problem." He slid another paper toward me. "The transport route. They're bringing him here tomorrow night," he said. "Why at night?" "Less traffic," he answered. It seemed normal enough. Until he said the next part. "There have been strange reports along the transport road." I frowned. "What kind of reports?" Dr. Miller looked uncomfortable. "Drivers seeing a woman dancing in the road." I laughed a little. "You're joking." "I wish I was." He showed me police reports. 3 different drivers had called emergency services. Each one said the same thing. A strange woman standing in the road at night. Dancing slowly. Blocking traffic. The drivers said when they tried to drive past her, their cars stopped working. One driver said his headlights turned off by themselves. Another said his radio started playing loud music even though it was off. "And this happened near the road the gorilla truck will take," Dr. Miller said. "So what are we supposed to do?" I asked. "The police will escort the truck," he said. "That should solve it." I nodded. But something about the story felt strange. The next night the rescue team gathered outside the center. The air felt cold and quiet. Too quiet. Dr. Miller checked his watch. "The truck should be here in 20 minutes. I looked down the empty road. Nothing but darkness. Then suddenly we saw lights far away. Headlights. And flashing police lights. The transport convoy was arriving. 2 police cars drove in front of the truck. Another followed behind it. The truck stopped in front of our gate. One officer stepped out. Tall guy named Officer Ryan. "Evening," he said. "You the rescue team?" Dr. Miller nodded. "Yes. We'll take the gorilla from here." Officer Ryan leaned closer. "Before we unload, I should warn you about something." I already knew what he was going to say. "The dancing woman?" I asked. Ryan's face changed. "How did you know?" Dr. Miller explained about the reports. Ryan sighed. "We saw her." My stomach dropped. "What?" I said. About 5 miles back, Ryan answered. What happened? Dr. Miller asked. Ryan rubbed his neck nervously. She was standing in the road. Dancing. Just like the report said. Did you arrest her? I asked. Ryan shook his head slowly. We tried. What do you mean tried? Ryan looked at the truck behind him. The moment we stepped out of the car, she disappeared. A loud bang suddenly came from inside the truck. Everyone turned. The gorilla cage rattled loudly. Congo was hitting the bars. Hard. The truck driver ran to the back. He's never acted like this before. The cage shook again. Then something strange happened. Congo suddenly stopped moving. Completely still. Like he was listening to something. I listened too. At first I heard nothing. Then very faintly. Music. Soft music drifting through the air. A slow rhythm. Almost like someone playing music from an old radio. Officer Ryan's eyes widened. No way. Then we saw her. At the far end of the road. Standing under a broken streetlight. The Serbian Dancing Lady. She was slowly spinning in circles. And she was getting closer. The Serbian Dancing Lady kept spinning slowly under the broken streetlight. The soft music in the air grew louder. Nobody knew where it was coming from. The police officers stood still beside their cars, watching her carefully. The red and blue lights flashed across the empty road, making her shadow stretch and twist across the ground. Officer Ryan raised his hand. Everyone stay back, he said. But the lady didn't stop dancing. She took a small step forward. Then another. Her movements were slow and strange. Her arms bent in odd angles while she turned in circles. The wind lifted the edges of her long dress. Congo the gorilla suddenly started screaming again inside the truck. The metal cage shook violently. Bang! 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 The truck driver shouted, "He's going crazy." Dr. Miller looked worried. Congo never acts like this unless he's scared. I stared at the dancing woman. She was still moving closer. Officer Ryan spoke into his radio. Dispatch, we have visual contact with the woman from the road reports. Static answered him. Then the radio crackled. But instead of a voice, strange music started playing through the radio. The same slow rhythm we heard in the air. Officer Ryan quickly turned the radio off. That's not normal, he said. Another officer stepped forward. His name was Officer Daniel. We should stop her before she reaches the truck. Ryan nodded. Careful. Officer Daniel slowly walked toward the middle of the road. The Serbian Dancing Lady stopped spinning. For a moment everything became silent. Then she tilted her head slowly. Her long hair fell across her face. Officer Daniel raised his flashlight. He called. You need to stop and step away from the vehicle. No answer. She just stood there. Then suddenly, she began dancing again. But this time it was faster. Her feet tapped rapidly against the pavement. The music in the air grew louder. Officer Daniel froze. His flashlight flickered. Then it turned off. What the? He muttered. The streetlight above the road started flickering too. On. Off. On. Off. Every time the light blinked, the lady appeared a little closer. The officers stepped back. That's impossible, someone whispered. Congo slammed against the cage again. The truck rocked. Dr. Miller grabbed my arm. Jake, something is wrong. Officer Ryan pulled out his taser. Last warning, he shouted. The dancing lady suddenly stopped. She slowly raised her head. Her face was pale. Her eyes looked completely empty. Then she smiled. The music stopped instantly. The silence felt heavy. Then the truck behind us shook violently. Crash! Everyone turned. One of the cage locks had broken. The metal door bent outward. Congo roared loudly. The gorilla slammed his body against the cage again. The metal snapped. The cage is breaking, the driver shouted. Dr. Miller panicked. If he gets loose he'll run into the forest. Officer Ryan looked at the lady again. But she was gone. The road was empty. Where did she go? Someone asked. Nobody answered. Then we heard footsteps. Behind us. Slow footsteps. Coming from the side of the truck. We all turned at the same time. The Serbian dancing lady was standing right beside the gorilla truck. No one had seen her move there. She placed one hand on the metal cage. Congo suddenly became silent. The giant gorilla stared directly at her. The officers raised their guns. "Step away from the truck," Ryan shouted. The lady didn't move. Instead, she started dancing again. Right beside the cage. Slow, twisting movements. Like she was performing for the gorilla. Congo's breathing became heavy. His eyes followed every movement she made. Dr. Miller whispered, "She's controlling him." Officer Ryan stepped forward. But the moment he moved, the lady spun suddenly. Her arm hit the broken cage door. Clang! The door swung open. For 1 second everything froze. Then Congo burst out of the cage. The massive gorilla jumped onto the road with a loud thud. The officers shouted, "Gorilla loose!" Congo looked around wildly. His chest rose and fell as he breathed heavily. Then he looked at the dancing lady. She was still spinning. Right in front of him. And slowly, the giant gorilla began walking toward her. Congo's massive frame shook the ground as he stepped toward the Serbian dancing lady. The officers aimed their weapons, but every instinct told them not to fire. Something unnatural was happening. The lady spun slowly, her face blank, her eyes glinting under the flickering streetlight. Her movements were hypnotic, almost trance-like. Congo stopped a few feet from her and crouched low, his chest heaving as he sniffed the air. Officer Ryan tried to grab the radio again. "Dispatch! We need backup. Now!" The static hissed in response, but no one came. The town was silent, the road deserted. Then the lady stopped dancing. She lifted her arms, palms facing Congo. The gorilla froze completely. His muscles tensed. For a moment, it was as if he were listening to her commands, absorbing her every motion. Suddenly, she turned toward us. Her head tilted at an impossible angle. A sound, a low, melodic humming, started echoing from her lips. It wasn't a song anyone could recognize, but it carried weight, power. Congo sat down slowly, bowing his massive head as if obeying an unseen order. Officer Daniel whispered, She's controlling him." Before anyone could react, the lady took a step back and pointed toward the forest beside the road. Congo stood up and moved in that direction without hesitation, his eyes never leaving hers. The officers looked at each other in disbelief. Dr. Miller tugged at my arm. "Jake, we need to follow, but carefully. This isn't just a runaway gorilla, there's something else here. Something dangerous." We edged closer to the edge of the road. The lady stopped again, her figure framed by the pale moonlight. Then, without warning, she spun toward the truck, slammed her hand on the metal, and the back doors flung open. Congo leaped in, crouching low as if waiting for something. The officers shouted in panic, but the lady waved them back with a flick of her hand. "Don't come closer," she whispered, her voice carrying over the wind despite being barely audible. I felt a chill creep down my spine. It wasn't just the gorilla or the deserted road, it was her presence. Something about her seemed unreal. Then a shadow appeared behind her in the woods. A tall, thin figure with long limbs emerged silently. Its movements were jerky, unnatural, but precise. The officers gasped. The lady noticed it immediately and began spinning again, faster this time. The shadow froze for a moment, then followed her rhythm as if bound to her dance. Congo growled low in his throat, a warning that made our hair stand on end. Officer Ryan took a cautious step forward. What is that?" Dr. Miller's eyes widened. "I don't know, but it's not human." The Serbian dancing lady spun one last time and then stopped dead. The shadow lunged forward. Congo roared in response, swinging his massive arms, but the shadow darted around him with impossible speed, avoiding every swing. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the shadow vanished into the forest, leaving a cold, eerie silence. The lady stood there, panting slightly, her eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. Congo stepped out of the truck, brushing his massive body against the side. The lady looked at him and smiled, a slow, unnatural smile. Then she disappeared. For a moment, no one moved. The forest swallowed the faint sounds of movement, and the only thing we could hear was Congo's heavy breathing. Then the ground shook. A low, guttural growl echoed from the woods. Something else was out there. Something bigger than Congo. The officers aimed their guns, but the forest stayed silent. Then a tree snapped. Branches fell. Something massive was moving through the shadows. Dr. Miller whispered, "We aren't alone." Congo turned his gaze toward the darkened woods, roaring again. The air grew heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and something far more sinister. The Serbian Dancing Lady's humming echoed faintly in the distance, carried by the wind. It was a sound that promised chaos, a sound that made your very soul freeze. And then we saw it. Two glowing eyes peering from the darkness, bigger than anything we had ever seen. They weren't human. They weren't animal. They belonged to something ancient, something that had been waiting. Before anyone could react, a shadow burst from the trees, charging toward the road. Congo let out a deafening roar, charging to meet it. The last thing I saw before the world went wild with noise and movement was the Serbian Dancing Lady's faint figure standing at the edge of the forest, spinning, smiling, and disappearing into the night, leaving chaos behind her. The road shook with the weight of the unknown, and the air filled with screams, growls, and a music that shouldn't exist. And then the night swallowed everything. The next moment, no one knew what would come out alive.